Picture this. You are 35 years old, sitting in a glass-walled conference room, and you've just been handed a 15% raise.
Woohoo! A 15% raise!
This is incredible. Thank you. You all earned it. Congratulations.
Yeah, party time!
On paper, you were winning. You've upgraded the sedan to a German SUV with heated steering and prestige badging.
Hey, wait a minute! Where are you going?
Sorry, gotta run!
You've moved into the zip code that signals to your college peers that you didn't just participate in the race, you're leading it. But as you sit there, looking at the direct deposit notification on your phone, a cold, systemic realization hits you. You don't actually feel any wealthier than you did 5 years ago. In fact, you feel more fragile. You have more accolades, but fewer assets.
Ugh, these accolades are so heavy. And the assets are weighing me down. Why is success so burdensome?
You have a higher throughput of cash, but your latency, the time it takes for a financial shock to ruin you, has dropped to near zero. You've fallen for the greatest logic error in the human operating system. You've confused a high-bandwidth lifestyle with high-net-worth freedom. This is the productive discomfort I want you to sit with today. You were taught that a bigger paycheck equals a shorter path to the exit. You were taught that the reward for your linear effort is a collection of high-status subscriptions. But here is the brutal truth. Your promotion is a trap if your bills invited it to stay. If your cost of living tracks your salary growth at a 1-to-1 ratio, you aren't an executive. You're just a more expensive piece of hardware in someone else's server rack. Welcome to the architecture of stealth wealth. My name is the System Architect. Today, we are going to debug your life. We are going to delete the social code that tells you to signal your value through consumption, and we are going to replace it with a mathematical framework that solves for one variable and one variable only: optionality.
Delete status code! No more errors! It's working!
Because wealth isn't the car you drive or the watch on your wrist. Wealth is the optionality you didn't spend. Most people are living with a code-level error. They think wealth is a visual medium. They think if they can see it, it exists. But in the world of true systems design, the most powerful processes are the ones you never see. They run in the background. They are headless. They have no UI. This is why the flashy lifestyle is actually a form of financial quicksand.
Flashy, but is it worth it? Freedom is calling. This is the way out.
Every time you buy something to prove you've made it, you are increasing your technical debt. In software, technical debt is the cost of additional rework caused by choosing an easy, messy solution now instead of using a better approach that would take longer. In finance, your technical debt is that 5-year car note. A car payment is just a subscription to staying average. It is a recurring line item that prevents you from allocating capital to the only thing that matters, the exit. Compounding is quiet. Quicksand is loud. The neighbor with the new boat is screaming for attention, but the quiet professional with $3 million in an index fund is invisible.
Woohoo! This is living! Steady growth. Perfect.
The average person thinks this is boring. They think it's risky to not have a house that consumes 40% of their income because real estate always goes up. They are wrong. Their math is linear, and if the math is linear, the exit is a fantasy. Let's look at the first debug step in our system, the latency audit. In a data center, latency is the delay before a transfer of data begins following an instruction. In your life, your financial latency is the amount of time you can survive and maintain your dignity if your primary income stream goes to zero tomorrow. Most high earners have a latency of about 3 months. They are running on high-performance hardware with no backup power supply.
This should do it. Whoa, too much juice. Not what I expected.
To fix this, you need a milestone mathematics target, the 15 by 65 by 20 protocol. Look at this XY axis on your screen. On the x-axis, we have years of career. On the y-axis, we have freedom quotient. The average person's line is flat. They earn more, they spend more, the line stays at 0. But the 15 by 65 by 20 protocol creates an exponential curve. 15% of your gross income goes to the legacy tax, taxes and insurance. 65% is your system maintenance, all living expenses. 20% is your capital injection, investments. If you cannot live on 65% of your income, you are over-provisioned. You're running too many background processes that aren't serving the core mission. This requires an identity shift. You aren't a consumer who happens to save some money. You are a system administrator of your own capital. You don't buy things, you allocate resources. When you see a $1,000 gadget, you don't see a tool, you see the $10,000 it would have become over 20 years in a compounding environment.
Let's see how this investment grows. Adding this dollar feeds the tree. Watch it bloom with returns.
You start to realize that every dollar has a future value and a present ego value. One of these leads to freedom, the other leads to a nicer cubicle. The average person will tell you this is too restrictive. They'll say, you only live once. Why save all that for when you're old? This is a logic failure. The math doesn't have an ego. By saving 20% or more starting in your 20s or 30s, you aren't saving for when you're old. You are buying back your time in your 40s. You are creating a buffer overflow for your stress. The risk isn't missing out on a vacation today. The risk is being 65 and having to ask a 24-year-old manager for permission to go to a doctor's appointment. But here is where the math gets weird. Step 2. Solve for throughput, not for status. In networking, throughput is the amount of data moved successfully from one place to another in a given time period. Your financial throughput is how much of your paycheck is actually being converted into assets versus waste. Most people have a leaky pipe problem. They earn $10,000 a month, but $9,500 of it leaks out into depreciating assets.
Imagine a chart comparing two individuals. Subject A earns $250,000 a year, but has a status load of $200,000. Subject B earns $120,000, but has a system load of $50,000. Who is wealthier? The average person says Subject A because they have the bigger house. The system architect says Subject B because they have a $70,000 annual surplus to feed the compounding engine, while Subject A only has $50,000. Subject B is actually outpacing the rich person because their system is more efficient. This brings us to the second identity shift. You must stop identifying with your accolades and start identifying with your net worth delta. Your delta is the change in your net worth every month. If your delta is 0, you are stagnant, regardless of your title. If your delta is positive and increasing, you are a growth engine. The extended technical metaphor here is server load. If you run your server at 99% capacity at all times, the moment there's a spike in traffic, the system crashes. Your lifestyle is your server load. If you are spending every dime to maintain your image, you have 0% headroom. When the economy has a traffic spike, a recession, a layoff, a medical emergency, your system goes offline. Stealth wealth is about keeping your server load at 40% so that you can handle any spike without breaking a sweat.
As you can see, the system is stable at 40% load. This ensures peak efficiency and reliability.
The counterargument usually sounds like this: but I need to look the part to get the next promotion. Networking requires a certain image. Let's use brutal math to debunk this. If the cost of getting a $20,000 raise is spending $25,000 on clothes, cars, and club memberships to look the part, you have just paid $5,000 for the privilege of working harder. That isn't a career move. That's a charity donation to your own ego.
True high-value players recognize competence, not conspicuous consumption. The most powerful people in the room are often the ones you can't identify by their outfit. They're the ones who own the building, not the ones renting the penthouse. The math is brutal, but the freedom is better. Step 3. Nonlinear math leads to linear effort. This is the aha moment. This is the realization anchor.
Ugh, this is endless. Come on, just a bit more. I can't stop now.
Most people think that to double their wealth, they need to double their work hours. That is linear effort. It is a 1-to-1 ratio. It is the most inefficient way to live.
Whoa, it's compounding like crazy. Look at all this dough. I'm rich. Woohoo!
Wealth, however, is governed by nonlinear math. Look at this graph of a compounding interest curve. For the first 10 years, the line looks like it's barely moving. It's crawling along the floor. This is the accumulation phase. This is where most people quit because they don't see the UI changing. They don't see the flashy results. But look at year 15. The curve doesn't just move up, it teleports. It goes vertical. This is where your money starts making more money than you do. This is the tipping point. At this stage, your linear effort, your job, becomes irrelevant to your system growth. You could stop working and the system would still grow. This is the definition of escaping the 9-to-5. It's not about having a big pile of cash. It's about having a self-sustaining code that generates more resources than it consumes. The identity shift here is the most difficult. You must stop being a worker and become an owner. A worker trades time for units of currency. An owner trades currency for assets that capture other people's time. When you buy a share of a global index fund, you are effectively hiring thousands of CEOs and millions of employees to work for you. You are the product manager of a global workforce. You don't need to know how to build a smartphone. You just need to own the companies that do. The average person thinks the stock market is gambling. They would rather put their money in a safe savings account or a physical house. Here's the math. A savings account at 1% interest after 3% inflation is a guaranteed 2% loss of purchasing power every year. That isn't safe. That's a slow-motion crash. A house has maintenance, taxes, and ego upgrades that often outpace its appreciation.
Feed me money! All right, I need more. That's all I have!
The risky strategy of diversified asset ownership is actually the only safe way to outrun the systemic decay of currency. But wait, it gets even more surgical. Step 4. Debugging the promotion trap. Your promotion is a trap if your bills invited it to stay. This is the phenomenon of lifestyle creep, or as I call it, feature bloat. In software, feature bloat is when you keep adding new functions to a program until it becomes slow, buggy, and useless. In your life, feature bloat is the second home, the designer hobby, the upgraded social circle. Every new feature you add to your life requires maintenance. It requires more of your CPU cycles, your mental energy, and more of your RAM, your monthly cash. Before you know it, you are working a job you hate to maintain things you don't use to impress people you don't like. The milestone mathematics here is the freedom ratio. Divide your passive income by your monthly expenses. If the number is 0.1, you are 10% free. If it is 1.0, you have reached critical mass. The goal of stealth wealth is to keep your expenses lean so that your freedom ratio hits 1.0 as fast as possible. If you look at this heat map of financial success, the red zones aren't the people earning $50,000. They're the people earning $250,000 with a $240,000 burn rate. They are one system error away from total collapse. The green zones are the professionals earning $150,000 who live like they earn $70,000. They have thermal mass. They are unshakable. This requires the identity shift of the invisible millionaire.
You have to be okay with people thinking you are doing okay, when in reality, you are doing legendary. You have to value the internal reality of your bank account over the external perception of your neighbors. You are solving for freedom, not for status. Assets over accolades.
Just one more chart to check. The numbers can wait. This is the life.
Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds great, but I don't know where my money's going. I don't have a dashboard. I'm flying blind. This is the code-level error that stops most people before they start. They have no telemetry. In engineering, you can't optimize what you don't measure. If you don't have a real-time view of your burn rate, your delta, and your freedom ratio, you are just guessing. And guessing is a high-risk strategy. This is why I developed the Wealth System Dashboard. It's not a budget app, it's a tipping point calculator. It's designed to help you see the nonlinear math in real time. It strips away the ego and shows you the surgical reality of your path to the exit. It helps you identify the technical debt in your life and gives you a roadmap to refactor your finances. If you want to stop building a lifestyle you have to defend and start building a system that sets you free, this is the tool you need to implement the logic we've discussed. The math doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your hard work. It only cares about input and efficiency. If you feed the system the right inputs, assets, low latency, and high throughput, the output is inevitable: freedom. The average person thinks wealth is about more. They want more clothes, more cars, more rooms in their house. But you now know the truth. Wealth is about less. Less stress, less dependency, less system load. When you have less to prove, you have more to live for. Let's look at one final data point. Imagine a graph of happiness versus net worth. The line goes up sharply until about $100,000 to $150,000 in household income, the point where survival and comfort are secured. But after that, the line plateaus. For some, it even starts to dip. Why? Because as their linear effort increases to earn the next $100,000, their freedom decreases.
Perfect! You're free next week. Free? I was gonna rest. Rest is overrated. We need you. Fine. Put me down.
They are trading the most valuable resource in the universe, time, for a resource that they are already wasting on status traps. The stealth wealth practitioner understands this plateau. Instead of trying to force the happiness line up through more consumption, they focus on the z-axis, time autonomy. They stop trying to buy stuff and start buying Tuesdays. Imagine what your life looks like when you own every Tuesday, when you don't have to check a calendar or ask for PTO. That is the non-linear payoff. The villain of this story isn't the government or your boss or the economy. The villain is the code in your head that says you are what you own. It's the quicksand of consumerism that tells you compounding is too slow. But remember, compounding is quiet. Quicksand is loud. The noise of the world is trying to keep you average. The silence of the math is trying to set you free. Let's talk about stress testing your new identity. When you go back to work tomorrow, someone is going to mention a new luxury item they bought.
This idea is golden! Vroom! Right, and my investments will fund this joyride? Exactly! Future value through the roof! Sure.
Your legacy code will kick in. You will feel a slight pang of inferiority. This is the system test. In that moment, I want you to run the refactor script. Remind yourself, that car is a subscription to staying average. My index fund is a subscription to my retirement at 40. The identity shift is choosing to be the architect rather than the tenant. A tenant pays to live in someone else's system. An architect designs their own. If your math is linear, your exit is a fantasy. But if you solve for freedom, the math becomes your greatest ally. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't care about the status of your neighborhood. It just works. I've seen high-level engineers making $400,000 a year who are broke because their system load is $390,000. And I've seen teachers making $60,000 who are wealthy because their system load is $30,000, and they've been running the compounding script for 20 years. Who has more optionality? The teacher. The teacher is the system architect. The engineer is just a high-maintenance asset for the company. Don't be the high-maintenance asset, be the architect. Every dollar you save today is a digital soldier that will fight for your freedom tomorrow. Every flashy purchase you avoid is a logic error you've successfully debugged. The path to stealth wealth isn't paved with gold, it's paved with discipline and data. As we close this session, I want you to look at your dashboard, not your bank balance, but your logic. Are you solving for freedom or are you solving for status? If the math doesn't have an ego, why do you? Solve for freedom. Delete the status code. And remember, the math is brutal, but the freedom is better. If this resonated with you, there's a specific debug sequence you need to run on your tax strategy next. Most people are losing 30% of their throughput to inefficient tax planning. Click the video on your screen to learn how to patch your tax leaks and keep more of your capital in your own system. Your wealth is the optionality you didn't spend. It's time to start hoarding options instead of objects.
Time to break free from the old routine. Look at all these possibilities ahead.
I'll see you in the next module. Let's keep building your exit strategy, one line of code and $1 at a time. The system is ready. Are you?